of this test back. Okay, so first please repeat after me together. Veal, physician, dairy, hygiene, below, above, extinguish, carpenter, occupation, pharmacist. So on one side you have the words, on the other side, column B, you have the answers, the meaning. Under, on or not touching, job, products made of milk, medical doctor, meat of young cow, person making medicine, put out or kill fire, person making cabinets, and cleanliness. Now let's see if you know the meaning of these words. Now what is the meaning of veal? Which of these words on column B will be the answer for the number one, veal? The correct answer is correct. It's a kind of meat. It's what we call it, meat of a young cow. In Farsi, you say gushti gusala. So this is what veal means. It is the meat of a young cow. Okay, number two. So which one did you choose for number two? Number two, physician. Which one did you choose as the answer? It's a kind of occupation, to give you a hint. And that means it's medical doctor, okay? A person who works in a hospital as a doctor is called a physician. Dairy is what? The correct answer is D, products made of milk. Excuse me. Hygiene refers to what? J, cleanliness. Below means what? It means under, but something that is not touching. So if I put this cup, this is below my hand because it is not touching. So the clock is below the ceiling, it's on the wall. So below. Above is what? Is the opposite, on, but not touching. So if you put this paper on the cup, it will be on the cup. But if you keep it up, it's not touching, it will be what? Above the cup. We have done that before. Next one is extinguish. What does extinguish means? Extinguish simply means what? It means H, put out or kill a fire. If there is a fire and you pour water on it, you extinguish the fire. Also with cigarette, people, they smoke, you could extinguish your cigarette. Okay? It means you can kill the flame or the fire there. Carpenter is what? A kind of job. And that's what? The job of a person who makes cabinets, builds homes. That's a carpenter. Occupation is another word for what? For job. That is C, job. And pharmacist is another occupation. And that is what? That means G, or a person who makes medicine and sells medicine in a pharmacy or in a drugstore. So please repeat these words one more time after me together. Again, this was just a review. These are the words you should know, but I bring it to your attention again and again and again. Okay, please repeat. Veal, physician, dairy, hygiene, below, above, extinguish, carpenter, occupation, pharmacist. Now we have a listening comprehension. First, I will teach you the words, and then I will read the story to you 2 times, and then you're going to ask some questions about it and then discuss the story. So first of all, you see the picture of what? This is what? The picture of a young man. This is the picture of another young man. So you say young man. But what is the plural form of man? If you have 2 of these, what do you call that? 2 what? 2 or what? You can call it young men. So the spelling changes. A changes to E, and the pronunciation also changes. For a singular person, you say what? Man. For plural, you say what? Men. Okay? So man, men. Young man, young men. So two of them here. What do you see here? Who are these people? What are they doing? What kind of a job do people have? You see a lady here, and then you see a man here is examining the eyes of this little child. What do you call that? It is called, what do you call this kind of a job? It's called an eye doctor. Eye doctor. So please repeat after me. Eye doctor. Eye doctor. What do you call this? You see this when you go to the office of an eye doctor, or you go to the DMV, or the school nurse. You see office. You see what? You see this chart with alphabets, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or numbers 1, 2, 3. What do you call that? It's called eye chart. Eye chart. Please repeat. Eye chart. And then the eye chart, there is one line that's on the top. There is another line which is what? At the end. So what do you call the line which is the very first line? It's called top line. Okay? Top line. And the one at the bottom is called bottom line. So please repeat. Top line, bottom line. The whole thing is called what? Eye chart. Eye chart as a top line and as a bottom line. So when you go to your doctor and the doctor says, read the top line, you read the first line. And read the bottom line means what? The very last line. What do you see here? You see what? A healthy eye, right? It's an eye. Eye, or what you call it, eyesight. Your ability to see is called eyesight. If you have healthy eyes, no problem with eyes, you have a strong eyesight. If you have a problem with your eyes, then you will have what? Weak eyesight, like this person. See, there's some issues, some problems with his eyes. So you say what? Weak eyesight. You can't see very well. What's going on in here? So you see a doctor is listening to the heart, measuring the blood pressure. What do you call this? When you go to a doctor, the doctor is listening to your heart, feeling your pulse, measuring your blood pressure. What do you call that? It's called medical exam. Okay? Please repeat. Medical exam. They also call it medical checkup. Okay? Please repeat. Medical exam. Medical exam. And they do more, and they could what? Listen to the lungs, the back, and then also check the eyes. It's a very complete medical exam or medical checkup. So please repeat. Medical exam. Medical checkup. Now, what do you call these people? That they usually work for the government, and they carry guns, and they go to wars, and they protect their countries. What do you call that? It's called, or they're called, it's one person is called a soldier. So she is a soldier, he is a soldier. Soldier. You could look at the uniform and guess what you can call it in the first language, in Farsi or Pashto. Soldier. If you have many soldiers together, what do you call that? Like you can see here, there's so many soldiers. It's called what? A group of soldiers is called army. Please repeat. Army. Army refers to a group of soldiers. What do you call this? People go there usually in the weekend, but you can go there every day if you want. And that's called what? Movies. Please repeat. Movies. It's another word for movies is what? Movie theater. Okay? Please repeat. Movie theater. Movie theater. Movie theater. In Farsi, the word theater we pronounce it differently, but it's the same word, theater. So it's you go to a movie theater. So these are the words I want you to know in order to understand the story. I showed some picture of some, but the other ones may be new. So I want you to first repeat after me together, and then we're going to move to the next part. Army service. Army service. Ma'am. Ma'am. Pretend. Pretend. Eyesight. Eyesight. Eye chart. Eye chart. Medical exam. Medical exam. Reply. Replied. Top line. Top line. Bottom line. Bottom line. Avoid. Avoid. So army service means what? Serving in the army or working for the army. Like in many countries, when a person becomes, usually boys or a man, when he becomes 18 or 20 or 19 or 21, they go to the army. In Afghanistan, when I was there, when a person became 20, I believe, if a person didn't have education, didn't go to university, they went to the army for 2 years. If the person went to university, after university, they went to the army service for 1 year. Every man had to do that. That was called what? Army service. Service means working. So working for the army. Army service. In every country, it's different. In some countries, it's only for men. In other countries, it's for both male and female citizens of the country. Please repeat. Army service. That means serving or working in the army. Ma'am is the short form of what? Madame or lady. It's a French word. Somebody says, excuse me, ma'am, means excuse me, lady. That's what ma'am means. But you spell it like this. M-A''A'-M. Okay? Ma'am. Pretend. If you pretend, it means what? You act. Like you pretend that you're very happy. You laugh. If you pretend that you're very sad, you want to look, sad. You pretend that you're sick, you act like you're sick. So you act like something. We studied this word before. Eyesight. So pretend simply means what? To act or try to make people agree with you. You pretend. Eyesight is what? How well you can see. Okay? You can have strong eyesight. You can have what? Weak eyesight. Okay? Eye chart is a chart, a piece of paper with A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see the top line and bottom line to read it. Usually doctors carry that to find out how well you can see. Eye chart. Medical exam. Medical exam is what? It simply means physical checkup. A doctor examines a person to see if he's okay. When you want to go to the army, you get what? A medical exam. When you, most people in this country, every year they go for a medical checkup. Every 12 months, the doctor examines, listens to the heart, listens to the lungs, feels the pulse, gives them blood test. That's called what? Medical exam or medical checkup. Reply, it simply means what? Answer. Past tense of reply is replied. That means answered. Excuse me. Top line refers to what? To the first line on an eye chart. And bottom line refers to what? To the last line on the eye chart. Avoid is a new word. Avoid means that you refuse to do something, not willing to do something. Like you, the person tells you that avoid smoking cigarette inside the building. Means don't smoke cigarette inside the building. If you avoid something, you don't do it. Okay? You avoid smoking means you don't smoke. Okay? You avoid, for example, watching TV means what? You don't watch TV. You avoid that. Okay? Sometimes you avoid a person. You don't want to see him. You don't want to talk to him. You say, I avoid my neighbor. You see your neighbor, you turn around. You avoid him. Okay? Sometimes people tell you what? Please don't avoid me. Means when you see me, please don't run away from me. Okay? Avoid. So please repeat after me these words one more time. You will hear these words in the context of the story. The story that I'm going to read to you, it's a funny story, I believe. It may make you laugh. Please repeat. Army service. Ma'am. Pretend. Eyesight. Eye chart. Medical exam. Reply. Replied. Top line. Bottom line. Avoid. Now what I have for you, as usual, I have 3 questions. I want you to listen to this story I'm going to read. I will read this story to you twice, okay? And I want you to find the answer for these questions. First, what did the young man do to avoid military service? So the story is about a young man, okay? A very young man, 20 years old or so. And he is asked to come and be part of the army, serve in the military, in the army. But he doesn't want to do that. So he wants to avoid it. Means not to go there. He wants to see, that's how we use the word avoid. He wants to avoid military service. He doesn't want to work there. So he pretends something. So I want you to listen to see what he does in order not to serve in the army. What did he say when the doctor said, please read the top line of the chart? So the doctor gives him a medical exam. He asks him some questions. And one of the questions is, read the top line of the chart. I want you to listen and find out what his answer will be. Or what his answer is. What did the doctor decide at last? At last means finally. It's another word for finally. So the doctor gave him an exam, and based on his exam, he decides on something finally. So what I want you to tell me after you listen to the story, what is the doctor's decision? What did he decide at last? In other words, what did he decide finally? Okay? What was his final words? What was his final decision? Okay? So, here are the questions again. I'm sorry I'm coughing a lot today, or about to cough every few minutes. The first one again, I will read it, and these are the same questions. I will read the questions one more time, and then I will read the story. What did the young man do to avoid military service? Again, avoid means what? He didn't want to go to military service. So what does he do to excuse himself from military service? Number 2. What did he say when the doctor said, please read the top line of the chart? What did the doctor decide at last, finally? Now, please listen to me. I'm going to read the story. A young man was called up for the army service, but he didn't want to become a soldier. When he went for his medical exam, he pretended that his eyesight was very bad. The doctor pointed to the eye chart on the wall and said, please read the top line. The top line of what? The young man asked. The top line of the chart, the doctor replied. What chart? The man asked. The chart on the wall, the doctor said. What wall? The man asked. Finally, the doctor decided that the man's eyes were not good enough for the army service, so he was excused. That same evening, the same young man was at a movie when another man came in and sat next to him in the dark. When the lights went on, the young man saw that the person who was next to him was the same doctor who had examined him earlier in the day. Immediately, the man said, excuse me, ma'am, does this bus go to Main Street? Did you get the joke? Okay, I'll try it again. Second time reading, again the same questions. What did the young man do to avoid military service? 2. What did he say when the doctor said, please read the top line of the chart? Number 3. What did the doctor decide at last? I'm going to read it the second time. A young man was called up for the army service, but he didn't want to become a soldier. When he went for his medical exam, he pretended that his eyesight was very bad. The doctor pointed to the eye chart on the wall and said, please read the top line. The top line of what? The young man asked. The top line of the chart, the doctor said. What chart? The man asked. The chart on the wall, the doctor said. What wall? The man asked. Finally, the doctor decided that the man's eyes were not good enough for the army service. That evening, the same young man was at the movie theater when another man came in and sat next to him in the dark. When the lights went on, the young man saw that the person next to him was the same doctor who had examined him earlier in the day. Immediately the young man said, excuse me, ma'am, does this bus go to Main Street? I certainly hope you got the joke of this story. So let's see if you have the answers. Question number 1. What did the young man do to avoid military service? That's one question. What's your answer for that? Do you have an answer for me? The correct answer is he pretended that he could not see. See, he was acting. So he acted that he can't see that, right? So he pretended. So if you want to give a long answer, you say what? The young man pretended that he could not see very well. What did the doctor say? What did he say when the doctor said, please read the top line of the chart? So what did the young man say? The top line of what? So basically, the long answer is that when the doctor said, ask him to read the top line of the chart, he said what? The top line of what? So he pretended he cannot see the chart. He cannot see the top line. He cannot see the bottom line. He cannot see the wall. He cannot see anything. That's what he pretended to do. What did the doctor decide at last? He had bad eyesight. So the doctor decided, or finally decided, that the man's eyes was not good enough for military service. For a soldier who cannot see a chart, who cannot see a piece of paper, who cannot see the wall, then that's not the right place to go to be in the army. So that's why he wanted to do what? To excuse himself. Avoid military service. Let me read the questions with the answers. What did the young man do to avoid military service? He pretended that he could not see. The young man pretended that he could not see very well. What did he say when the doctor said, please read the top line of the chart? Answer, the top line of what? When the doctor asked him to read the top line of the chart, he said, the top line of what? What did the doctor decide at last? The doctor finally decided that the man's eyes was not good enough for the military service. Now, here are some yes/no question or true/false questions. So if the sentence is, correct, you circle T. If the sentence is not correct, you circle F. So you have a choice of true or false. Let me read the sentences first. That will give you time to think, and then you choose the correct answer. Number 1, the young man wanted to serve in the army. Is that right or wrong? Number 2, the man pretended that he had good eyesight. Is that right or wrong? The young man was unwilling to serve the army or in the army. Is that right or wrong? True or false? The doctor decided that the man's eyes were good enough for the army service. Did he make the decision? Did he decide that the eyes were good or the eyes were bad? Okay, so you need to think about that. The young man met the doctor on a bus that evening. Is that correct? Is this where the man met the doctor that evening or somewhere else? So let's look at sentence number 1 again. The young man wanted to serve in the army. True or false? The correct answer is false. He didn't want to serve in the army. He actually what? He wanted to avoid military service. If you want to avoid military service, you don't want to serve there. You don't want to work there. Number 2. The man pretended that he had good eyesight. Did he pretend that he had good eyesight? Of course not. The correct answer is what? F. The man decided that he had what? He had bad eyesight. He pretended that. The young man was unwilling to serve in the army. So unwilling simply means what? He didn't want to serve in the army. The doctor decided that the man's eyes were good enough for the army service. That's what? That's also false, because he decided that his eyes were not good enough for the army service. The young man met the doctor on a bus that evening. I wrote here young, but not the man. So it's the young man met the doctor on a bus. The answer is what? Wrong, because he met him what? He met him on in a movie theater. Now, let's read the dialogue. This is what you heard. Let me read it for you. You can see for yourself what the correct answers were. A young man was called up for the army service, but he didn't want to become a soldier. When he went for his medical exam, he pretended that his eyesight was very bad. The doctor pointed to the eye chart on the wall and said, "Please read the top line." "The top line of what?" the young man asked. "The top line of the chart," the doctor replied. "What chart?" the man asked. "The chart on the wall," the doctor said. "What wall?" the man asked. Finally, the doctor decided that the man's eyes were not good enough for army service. That evening, the same young man was at a movie when another man came in and sat next to him in the dark. When the lights went on, the young man saw that his neighbor was the doctor who had examined him earlier. Immediately he said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but does this bus go to Main Street?" So he was pretending that he didn't know where he was. He didn't know the difference between a movie theater and a bus. So he didn't want to get caught. And that's why he pretended that he's basically blind. Okay, I certainly hope that you find the story entertaining and learn some new words. So the buzzword here was what? Avoid. I certainly hope you got that one. When you avoid something, you don't want to do it. Like this man, what? He wanted to avoid military service. So he pretended, acted that he was blind. He couldn't see very well. Now, this brings us to a grammar lesson. And this grammar lesson is prepositions at, on, and in. We're going to look at this, how to use them for preposition for time, and how to use the same prepositions for place. So number 1, at, we use it for different parts of the day, like noon. You say what? At noon. Night, you say what? At night. Midnight, you say what? At midnight. So usually for what? Midnight is a specific time. Noon is a specific time. So you use at for what? Specific time. At noon, at night, at 2 o'clock, at 11 o'clock. This program, it starts at 11 o'clock, exactly at 11 o'clock. So that's what? Exact time, specific time. For a specific time, you use at. On is used with dates, and then also for days of the week. You also use it month plus the day. So in other words, you could make sentences like on Monday, on January 5th, something like that. You use on. In is used with month, with year, and in plus the past or plus the present form. I will give you examples. Like you say what? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Excuse me. You could also say in the summer or in the fall. So at, on, in. So examples are here. Our class starts at noon. This class starts at what? At 11 o'clock, specific time. They do their homework at 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock. At noon, specific time. My brother called me on Monday. Jim will come here on October 5th. See, October 5th is what? A day of the week. For days of the week, you use on. N is used with what? Like you say, we study English in the morning. For a part of the day, you use what? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. They will be here in November. You also use it with months without the date. So in November. Russians invaded Afghanistan in 1979. So for years, for months, you also use what? In. So for place, you use at also when it's very specific. If you've got the number of the street, the name of the street, you use at. You use on for the name of the street only. You use in for the name of the city, state, or country. Here are some examples. He lives at 1998 A Street, Hayward, California. Because of 1998, you use at. It's a specific address. You can find the person. On. Chabot College is on Esperion Boulevard in Hayward. See, it's general, not specific. Chabot College is on Esperion Boulevard. Esperion Boulevard is a very long boulevard. There are many businesses and homes, so it's not specific. It's on that street. And in is even less specific. Like Jim lives in Fremont, California. Fremont is a big city. So it is where does he live? We can't find it. So again, in is used for what? For something least specific. On is used for what? Specific. And at is used for what? Very specific place. So here are some examples. I certainly hope you will be able to answer these questions. So the morning. What do you say here? In the morning, on the morning, or at the morning? 3:30 p.m. Which one do you use? At 3:30 p.m., on 3:30 p.m., or in 3:30 p.m.? You decide. 5700 Stone Ridge Drive. Use in, at, or on. Monument Boulevard. Use in, at, or on. 1997. Use in, at, or on. Let's look at the answers. For the first one, for the morning we say what? Again, in, at, or on. The correct answer is in the morning. This class starts in the morning. In the afternoon. 3:30 p.m. Very specific. You have to say what? At 3:30 p.m. 5700 Stone Ridge Drive. It's a specific address. So we say what? At. So for both, for a specific time and for a specific address, we use at. Monument Boulevard. On. Less specific. 1997, just the year, we use what? In. Okay, let's look at this one. I have some sentences. See if you could figure out the answers. The hospital is located blank 1425 Bill Street. Number 2. She goes to work early blank morning. My brother arrives home blank 5 o'clock. Dr. Smith does not work blank Mondays. There is a library blank Oak Street. So which one do you use in these blanks? In, on, or at? That's what your task is. You look at what? Is it very specific? Is it specific, or is it general? So that's for time and for place. The first one, you have the address of the street, 1425. There's only one place like that, 1425 Bill Street. So that's why it's very, very specific. You have to use what? At. The hospital is located at 1425 Bell Street. She goes to work early morning. For different parts of the day, we use what? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but at noon. Because in the morning is a long time. It's like morning starts at 1 o'clock and then it goes 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Until 11:59 is still morning. So it's not specific. My brother arrives home 5 o'clock. Again, very specific time. You need to say what? At 5 o'clock. Dr. Smith does not work Mondays. See, for the days of the week, we only use one thing, and that's what? On Mondays. There is a library, Oak Street. See, the name of the street is specific, but there is not an address. There is no number. We have to say what? On Oak Street. Let me read these sentences with correct completions. The hospital is located at 1425 Bill Street. She goes to work early in the morning. My brother arrives home at 5 o'clock. Dr. Smith does not work on Mondays. There is a library on Oak Street. The next part of the lesson I've prepared for you is the irregular verb form, but unfortunately we don't have time for it. I see that our time is up, so I'll have to stop here, and what I want you to do is what? Keep reviewing the vocabulary, the lessons, the grammar rules. If you don't review, I will do it for you. That's why today at the beginning we had a vocabulary exercise, which I took it from previous lessons exactly and brought it for you so that you can remember the words we have studied. So I will stop here, and then we will continue from here the following week. بیننده های بسیار محترم تلویزیون ایمان، اولتر از همه ماه مبارک قبلا بر شما تبریک میگم که انشاءالله در روز سه‌شنبه ماه مبارک رمضان شروع میشه و همچنان تا هفته آینده شما را به خداوند متعال میسپارم. تشکر.
Approximately 300,000 Muslims live in the Northern Virginia and DC metro area.